Hello and welcome, this is Gunner, and we're back with some more BattleTech and my continued look at the backer beta build and the single player skirmish mode found within. For this video, I'll be taking a look at another well-rounded build. The premise of these well-rounded builds is that I'll have one scout, one preferably two frontline mechs, and one support mech. And ideally, we want to make as effective of a lance as we possibly can at the budget that we have to work with. And in the case of this video, it's going to be the war budget of 25 million, which is the highest of the budgets outside of the unlimited class that has recently been added into the game with the most recent update. I've already made series of videos covering the class budget as well as the battle budget, and this is my second video covering the war budget level. With that being said, I'm going to be making some changes from the first video. Usually speaking, I like to use the same opponent for all of the builds at the same budget level so that we have a comparison. But I've actually made a change because I did a stream to test out the other two builds that I'm going to be showcasing here at this war budget outside of that first video. And not only was I testing the builds to see their effectiveness, I was also testing the AI opponent as well, because I felt like there was a little bit of an issue with the lance loadout that the opponent was using in that they were playing a little too overly aggressive with the mechs that they had. They were using jump jets all the time. They were using their weapons very aggressively. This made the AI mechs overheat, shutting them down, making them very vulnerable, and I've decided to change up my opponent, so that is going to make it so we don't have that direct comparison between this video and the first, but I think this will be a more challenging opponent for us. It does have some drawbacks, but we'll talk about the opponent a little bit here later on. For now, let's talk about the lance loadout that I have to work with. So my first war budget build was meant to be the ideal of the well-rounded build. It doesn't really have any weaknesses. It was a stronger support mech, it was a stronger scout mech, and we had the two that I'm usually looking for frontline mechs, and the budget was divided pretty evenly amongst those. This time around, we're going to switch that up, and we're going to emphasize more the support mechs. So I have two support mechs, which is outside my norm. Usually I'm looking for two frontline mechs. I have done a build like this before, but it was at a lower budget level where I didn't have as much variety. This time around, we have plenty of variety because of how much budget we have to work with, but I still think it's an interesting lance loadout to try. And because we're using two support mechs, I'm going to be using cheaper support mechs. But because there's only one frontline mech, I'm going to be using the most expensive mech that we have in the game, which is the Atlas. So the Atlas is going to have to fend off the opponents by itself. So we wanted to make it as strong as we could there. So that's been kind of the rebalance of the lance loadout here compared to the first one. So let's go ahead and start off with our scout, which is going to be the commando. So we're a little bit cheaper than we were with the first lance loadout using a Jenner. We're jumping down to the commando, but the commando is still going to offer some of the same benefits the Jenner is. We're going to lose a little bit in mobility, but we're going to have comparable firepower. The commando has an SRM-6, an SRM-4, and a medium laser, which is pretty good firepower for the weight of a mech that it is. It's not going to be all that durable, and it does lose out some mobility to gain that firepower, but it still has respectable mobility for a light mech. So it's not going to be as easy to get away from the opponent as, for example, a Locust or the Jenner we mentioned earlier, but it's still going to be able to do that. Moving on to our frontline mech, we've already mentioned it's the Atlas, which is the most expensive mech in the game, the heaviest mech in the game, and it's fairly well armed and armored. So we have, I believe, 4 medium lasers. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There might be another one around here, but I think 4. We have an AC-20, an LRM-20, and an SRM-6. The LRM-20 and the AC-20 are going to be very heavy firepower. The LRM-20 at long range, the AC-20 at short range. So we should be able to attack in various range bands. We're going to be more effective as far as weight of damage closer in, though. And our main strength is our durability. We've got very heavy armor. We're a very heavy mech. We do lose out in mobility, being one of the slower mechs in the game, but the job of the Atlas is to stand and tank for us. So hopefully the Atlas will be able to do that effectively by itself. Moving on, we have our support mechs, which I'm using the same mech here, the Trebuchet. You could switch this up if you wanted to and use a Griffin, which is at the exact same budget level. You could also change this to a Centurion, which could do double duty as a support mech or as a frontline mech. As you can see, it has an LRM 10 and a large laser. At least this particular Centurion does. So those are some options you can do. But for now, or at least for this build or this video, I'm just going to be using trebuchets here to keep things simple. And I think that it's going to offer us good punch for its value. And that's what we're really going for. So the armament of the trebuchet is 2 LRM-15s and 3 medium lasers. The real problem of the trebuchet is it's not going to be all that durable. It's not meant to be in the front line. So if our opponent can get to our support mechs, they'll be a little bit vulnerable there. Also, trebuchets have a hard time with heat buildup. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge of the trebuchet. If we're firing off, well, if we do an alpha strike, that's going to really cause us some heat issues. So we're going to have to watch out for that. But ideally, you're just going to be staying back and using those LRM-15s to give you good covering fire. As far as the pilots we have, I am using Arclight and our Scout mech, which is my go-to Scout pilot. The Master Tactician ability gives you an advantage in initiative, and the Sensor Lock ability gives you the ability to establish line of sight, which is going to be very effective for our support mechs. And considering that we have 2 support mechs here, that's going to be very valuable for us. For our Atlas, I have Sumo. Sumo has decent firepower, which is going to aid us. Piloting skills a little lackluster, which is going to hurt us to a certain extent because the Atlas, one of its strengths being as heavy it is it can do a lot of damage and melee combat. We have a high gut skill, which should help us for dealing with heat, which will be nice. But the real thing that we're looking for here is the ability, and that ability is the Bulwark ability. If we stay stationary, we can fire our weapons, and at the end of the turn, we'll get the guarded status, which will reduce damage by 50%. Considering the Atlas's job is to tank damage, that's exactly what we're looking for. We also have the multi-target ability. The Atlas may be outnumbered here, so multi-target's actually going to give him the opportunity to attack more than one opponent if the situation is right. Especially as the Atlas can attack at different range brackets, we might be able to take advantage of that pretty nicely with the Atlas. Again, depending on the situation and whether or not that's going to overheat us, which may be a concern. For our 2 trebuchet pilots, I have Apex, which has good gunnery, as well as a very important ability for me, at least for support mechs, which is breaching shot. If we only fire one weapon, so that would be 1 LRM-15, usually speaking, we will remove any cover or guarded statuses that our opponent has. And we already know that guarded is going to reduce damage by 50%, so anytime that an opponent has that, we can do full damage to them, which is very valuable. And then we also have multi-target, which we've already talked about. That's going to allow us to attack more than one opponent in a particular turn. And then our other trebuchet is going to be piloted by Wildfire. And Wildfire is also going to have a good gunnery skill and have, unfortunately, there's no other pilot that has breaching shot. So instead, we're going to be gaining Bulwark. That's not really what I'm looking for with a support mech. But I chose Wildfire over the other pilot that has a good gunnery skill, Kraken, because of the better gut skill, which we already talked about the fact that the trebuchet is going to struggle with heat a little bit. So I'd rather have a pilot that can manage that heat a little bit better than Kraken in any case. All right, so that's my Lance loadout. As far as the opponent I chose this one. This will actually be a really tough challenge for us because the Hunchback, Orion, and Battlemaster will be very hard for our Atlas to handle. They'll probably overwhelm his abilities. So we'll have to see how well the Atlas can stand against these 3 mechs, which, first off, the other part of the challenge of these 3 mechs, as well as the Urban mech to a certain extent, is the fact that they're very well protected. So we're going to have a hard time knocking these mechs out of action. So this is a very challenging opponent. Now, the one thing that we can do, though, to take advantage of this opponent is it's a fairly slow opponent. The Urban mech, their only light mech, is extremely slow, so we could take advantage of this opponent with our light mechs, which is one of the reasons why I didn't want to choose this as my main opponent, because I felt like with a solid light mech, you could really pick this particular lance apart, but we'll see. Again, they have the ability to overwhelm us and possibly get to our support mech, so we'll have to see how that works out, but let's go ahead and jump into things. I'm going to be using the same map I always use for these well-rounded builds, and here we go.
Mech warriors, prepare for combat.
So as I said, this is by no means an easy opponent. The one thing that we may have an advantage is just in the light mech scale of things. Our Scout mech is going to be able to possibly act at will, doing hit and run attacks. and not really have anything to challenge it. So that's going to be our one advantage. Our disadvantage is, or at least something that we're going to have to contend with, is how durable the opponent is and how much damage they can do at close range. And at that point, we may be overwhelmed. Normally speaking, I would put my Atlas in the woods here, and then I put my support mechs back. I'm tempted not to do that. And the reason I'm tempted not to do that is I'm afraid we'll be overwhelmed very easily if I do. So I think we're going to use the back end of the map a little bit more than I normally do. I am going to put my scout mech traditionally where I put the scout mech, which is up here. But I'm going to move my other mechs into a position over here. And we do have to remember that the Atlas does have an LRM-20, which should allow me to poke at range. So
No problem.
in the initial turns, we won't be at too much of a disadvantage hanging back like this. Now, that does mean that I'm going to have to really hang back, in my opinion, with the trebuchet. So I may aim to go in behind this mountain over here eventually. We could also go in behind this area as well, although that does not give us a lot of room to maneuver. But I will do that with Apex, I think.
On my way.
And then Wildfire to kind of split ourselves up, because, as I said, being overwhelmed by our opponent is going to be a real problem for us, possibly. I'm going to go ahead and move over. Might be an option to, yeah, face the enemy like this. Because we have to remember that Wildfire does have the bulwark ability, so if we stay stationary, we will get the guarded status, which might be helpful. So, more than likely, I'm going to try and stay very mobile with the trebuchets to try and keep them out of trouble. As I said, if the opponent stays together, they can pretty easily overwhelm us and form a wrecking crew that we want to try and avoid if we can. So,
Yeah?
Arclight, I'm going to move up a little bit, but I'm not going to move her up too far. Because I am a little bit concerned about getting caught out in a spot where I can get vision on me. Although, considering how slow my opponent is, this actually might not be too bad of an idea. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to move up considerably, and we're going to move in. There seems to be a rock here. I might be able to move up in here. I'll get a lot of evasion charges nonetheless. And hopefully we can move that sensor up enough that we get contact, which is exactly what we're looking for. And I think that will start the turn, although we didn't keep the sensor lock, so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. Sumo, we're just going to go ahead and stay right where we are and brace up.
All right. Let me know when you need me.
Apex, I'll continue to move a little bit into position here, so I'm going to move into the woods, but I'm going to stay behind this rock so that we have good protection. And then Wildfire, we're going to go ahead and keep where she is. You know what? I might even move her up a little bit because it's possible we won't be able to act right away. So I might retreat in future turns.
Location confirmed.
All right. So depending on whether or not that little bit of sensor contact is going to count, we'll have to see. The opponent may move into my sensor range as well,
This is becoming a
which is exactly what has happened. Because I put my scout over here, we're probably going to see the opponent move into this direction. So we'll have to act accordingly. Okay, so looks like we've got a heavy and a medium mech. I'm going to assume this is the Orion and this is the Hunchback. For now, I'm going to reserve. Now, a unique element of this Lance loadout, our opponent, is the fact that their light mech is so slow, it's probably never going to be in the front line or anywhere that I'm going to routinely be seeing it. It's probably going to be used more as a support mech than as a traditional scout. I'm going to reserve again, because I think there is a little bit of an advantage of allowing their medium mech to come a little bit further out. We actually had a little bit of a line of sight there for a bit. Okay, so I don't think I want to stay here with Arc Light, so I think it's time to start moving here. Now, I have very good tactics. They probably don't have so good. You see how far I have to move up before they see me? So I think we're going to move away here. keeping up a good evasion, I think. Keeping that hunchback just in sensor range.
Moving to position.
And we'll sensor lock the hunchback. Now, my other mechs may not be able to reach this far away. We'll have to see. The Orion might have been the better target for my sensor lock. With that being said, Apex, who is more than likely the closest, can reach the hunchback. So I think that's probably what we're going to do. I'm not even going to move. And instead, I'm going to only fire one LRM-15. Remember, breaching shot. So this is the one LRM-15 that has the best chance to hit. So we'll fire that off. And we'll be doing full damage here. So any of these missiles that hit will do full damage. And we'll kind of pepper our enemies. So this is going to be a particular loadout that is going to require... I think that mech is out of range at the moment. So if we want to act, we're going to have to move. And it looks like it is showing to me when I am in range. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward to the point that I'm in range. And I may only fire one LRM-15 at this range. I don't have breaching shot with wildfire. But I don't think the chance to hit here on this hunchback is going to be worth burning through my ammo at this stage of... As we see, we're going to have quite a bit of heat buildup, but ammo consumption is also going to be a concern. So I'm only going to be firing the one that has the higher chance to hit. We're still going to be doing reduced damage, though. As I said, we don't have breaching shot. But damage is damage, so I'll take it. Okay, it looks like the Orion actually moved around, so I guess our decision to sensor lock the hunchback was not bad at all.
Something I can do.
And we should be able to attack here against the hunchback, although our gunnery skill is not quite so good, so it's not going to be as good of a shot from Sumo, but we're probably not going to get that many opportunities to fire the LRM-20, so I'm okay firing this at this point, even though it is a very poor firing solution. And damage is damage. Now again, the hunchback has very good armor, so this is going to take some work. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and reserve again. We're going to see what our opponent does. So yet again, we're not seeing their light mech yet. It's a little bit dangerous to reserve at this point, but I'm going to reserve again with arc light. Let's have the opponent do what they're going to do. The hunchback continues to move over in that direction. At this point, I don't really have a clear target here. I could sensor lock the hunchback again, and that would not be necessarily a bad call, but I'm going to go ahead and reserve again.
Reserving action.
Let's see what our opponent does. If the Orion gets closer, I might think it's a better target. I don't think it's got much closer. I mean, honestly, it's standing practically the same spot that the hunchback was in the previous turn. All right, I'm going to reserve one more time. This is going to make my last opponent move. And I just want to see if the Battlemaster will show up here. Okay, so it's still out of contact. So at this point, I'm going to continue to move with arc light. Staying in motion is going to be important for our light mech. Of course, we are going to want to stay within range of our opponent as well. And we'll move to here. I kind of want to stay within cover here, but I want that sensor lock as well. I can take confidence, though, in the fact that we will go before our opponent. So do we focus on... Ah, there he is. At this point, I actually think that the Battlemaster is closer. I would like to continue to focus fire on the hunchback, but all things considered, I think I'd rather go after the Battlemaster at this point. So we're going to sensor lock up the Battlemaster. It's possible that the Battlemaster did not guard. Oh, okay. Yeah, it did. So damage is going to be reduced here.
Yeah.
Now, we do have direct line of sight with our Atlas, so we should be able to... Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter because nothing else is in range. We are going to fire away with our LRM-20.
I'm gonna make some sweat.
And the AI is doing a good job of defending themselves. When you're closing in on an opponent that's using sensor lock against you, this is really the best way to close the distance because you're going to be reducing their damage significantly. It's going to mean you're going to close the distance slower, so it's possible they'll be able to pick away at you, but at the same time,
Orders.
it does possibly burn through their ammo too. So we're going to fire just the one LRM-15 so we can remove that guard.
Engaging target.
And again, conserve our ammo and our heat. Okay, so now it's Wildfire's turn.
I'm receiving you.
I'm considering hitting with both of our LRM-15s. It's going to go through a lot of our ammo, and it is going to build up heat, but I think this is a good time to do it because we have direct line of sight. A lot of this is going to hit. But again, well-armored mechs, very durable. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to continue moving. Here, we'll also keep out of line of sight and be able to sensor lock our opponent again. Now, ideally, we'd want to wait until the Battlemaster moved because we'd also be able to burn through its evasion charges, but I think for now, I'd rather get the positioning, so...
Got it.
And we might be able to do a hit-and-run attack as the Battlemaster gets in too close as well, so... I think we're just going to continue to focus on the Battlemaster here. Now, until the Battlemaster moves, it's not going to really matter. Okay, so Apex is going to continue with her fire.
Standing by. Confirmed.
Now, if I had Breaching Shot with another pilot, we could be doing really good damage here. Okay.
Yes, Commander.
Now, I could wait until the Battlemaster moves to see if it does something unwise and doesn't guard, but I have the feeling that it's going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and attack here, but I'm not going to fire both my LRM-15s, first off to conserve ammo, but also to cool off a little bit. We're just going to fire the one that has the better chance to hit. We might be able to knock this mech down, as we are knocking it unsteady at this point by continuing to hit it. Okay, here comes the Orion. And with as slow as they are, I mean, we are going to really be able to pick these guys apart. It's going to take time, but it's something we can do.
Piece of cake.
Continue to fire the LRM-20 here. Now, when our opponent braces again, though, they will burn through a lot of this unsteady, so... it will only benefit us so much. Okay.
What do you need?
So I'm going to move across, keep my mech moving, my light mech. We might be able to get a flank too if we move around this way. And we're going to sensor lock up the Battlemaster again. And with that Battlemaster, we can see that the unsteady has been more or less removed completely, so...
Aye, aye.
Alright, I think we're fine to probably stay where we are. We're going to attack again with just the one LRM-15, breaking through the guard. I'm going to take advantage of that as much as I can. This is usually why one support mech is ideal at this point, because you only have one pilot in the game that has breaching shot anymore.
I'm here.
We are getting close to a point where I am going to have to start moving away with my trebuchet to get a little bit more defended position. So we are going to work for that to a certain extent, as this Battlemaster is going to continue to run straight at us. And I'm only going to fire one LRM-15 as well to conserve ammo and cool ourselves off. This is a lot of unanswered damage that we're pouring out here.
What can I do you for?
85% chance to hit now,
Target mine.
now that we're getting closer in. And we will eventually start being able to bring our other weapons to bear against that Battlemaster. Okay.
Yeah.
So Arclight is going to continue to move here. Again, trying to go for the flank because we might be able to get a rear attack here. Our opponent is very spread out with our other opponents somewhere over here, and they're not even in sensor range of our other mechs, so they're fairly far away now. By moving our scout mech around, we've kind of taken advantage of the AI a little bit, as far as that's concerned. Okay, let's go ahead and take
Commander,
Apex and just continue to do what we've been doing.
firing on target.
The Battlemaster does have a PPC, so it will be able to engage at range, but fortunately for my opponent, they don't really have anything to establish line of sight. So it's possible they might be able to establish it sometime soon, but for now, it's not something they've really been able to pull off. I am tempted to take Wildfire and wait, because it's possible the Battlemaster will attack. And that would be the turn we'd want to take advantage of it, because it's not going to be able to brace. But I have no guarantee that that's going to happen this turn, so I'm just going to go ahead,
Waiting for orders.
continue to hit the mech with our LM-15s. Again, I'm only going to be firing one, though. I'm a little bit concerned if... And I'm going to move out a little bit as well, because I want to break my mechs up a little bit so that they're not all next to each other, kind of like they are. Okay, we're just going to fire the one LRM-15. Again, conserving ammo is the real reason behind this. We have 3 other mechs that we have to deal with. If we burn all our ammo on just the Battlemaster, that's not really good, especially as we're burning through that ammo against a guard. Okay, Sumo.
Yeah.
Still only the LRMs are in range. Fine with me. All right, here comes the Battlemaster. Okay, so the trick that we have here is we could try and get a flank attack. I might really be able to do that.
What do you need?
But we want to do that in a turn that is after the Battlemaster has moved. So this is going to require me to reserve quite a bit. I might not be able to pull off the move either. So we're just going to be reserving pretty much rapid fire here.
Holding for
And the
light
idea is to make the Battlemaster move first. That way our light mech is free to move. Okay, and this is going to be our last reserve, which is going to force the Battlemaster to move. Here it comes. I might not be able to get into position with Arclight, and if I can't, then that's fine. I might just partially move rather than fully move into a position. Because if I move here, yeah, we've got a good evasion charge. But I would have to still act last, and it does kind of put me in a position where the Battlemaster might just turn on me and come up and try and do heavy damage to me. I guess this is a risk that we're going to have to take at this point, but I'm just going to move around and we're going to sensor lock.
Copy that.
If the urban mech was over here, this would also be dangerous, but it looks like we're okay for now. We're going to sensor lock up the Battlemaster. Now, this is where I'm going to have to make decisions on whether or not...
What's up, Commander?
Well, clearly he's not seeing me yet. I'm going to turn off some of these weapons to try and remain cool. The medium lasers, I think, are okay to fire because they don't cost me any ammo, and we're not that hot if we fire the 4 medium lasers with the LRM-20, so we're going to go ahead and fire all these things.
I got him.
And this is going to be fairly good damage. Okay, now it's Apex's turn.
Awaiting orders.
And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and try and back off a little bit. Staying in a position over here.
Moving to position.
And we'll continue to use our breaching shot to best advantage. 95% chance to hit. Pretty
Taking
good.
the shot.
Okay, we've gotten through the armor there and managed to crit one of the weapons. Very good. Okay.
Standing by.
Wildfire has a good opportunity here, and I think we are going to fire just one LRM-15, though.
Acknowledged.
I'm going to save our heat for the next turn, because that's going to be the crucial turn. Because we stayed still, we destroyed the MG. Very good. We're going to get our guard up, so that's going to be nice. Alright, so I am a little bit in a dangerous position. This Battlemaster could turn on me and go after our commando, which could be really bad for us. But I'm going to try and see if we can get a flank on this guy, if at all possible. Hopefully he just moves forward. Okay, there is the Orion, putting us in a little bit of a dangerous situation, but we will be able to out-initiative him, so not a big deal. So exactly what I thought would happen. This guy's going to turn around and try and move on us. Unfortunately for him, he just gave his back possibly to my Atlas. So
Yeah? What can I do you for?
at this point, we are going to move the Atlas because getting in on his back is going to be much better than anything else we could possibly do. So I do want to sling some shots at him, though. So I think we're going to do this with Wildfire because Wildfire isn't really in a position, I think, to do anything else. And we're just going to sling out the one LRM-15. This is to burn through the evasion charge to give us a better shot with our other mechs. Do a little bit of damage, but the main goal here is to give us a good back shot. So now Apex,
Standing by.
more or less staying right where she is, can hit this guy's back. We can fire both LRM-15s at this stage. We might even want to move a little bit here to give us a better target. So I'm going to move up into these woods, moving us within sensor range, which is going to give us a better, I think, overall firing solution. We're still behind, so we'll be through the guard with the two LRM-15 shots. We have 95 and 90% chance to hit. It's going to be on rear armor, which is fresh armor, but should be a lot thinner. And we're also going to be doing full damage here.
Reporting critical hits.
Okay, now it's going to be Sumo. Now we're going to make him a little bit more vulnerable in this move, but I only have to move a very slight bit to get in behind our opponent. I don't think, be able to bring my medium lasers to bear, though, if I move here. So we may want to move up a little bit further than we have. Which is fine. The Atlas is only going to be against the Battlemaster. So this move here, I think, is just fine.
Consider it done.
And considering the weight of fire that we can bring on our opponent, this should be fairly devastating. At this point, I think we go for broke. This is going to be massive damage, and we might as well sling everything we've got here. Some of these are not great chances to hit, but they're still really decent chances to hit. So let's go ahead.
Alright, I'll give him the whole 9
That needs to hit, which it unfortunately missed. But as we can see, the weight of fire is still a very extreme.
Oh, that looked like it hurt.
And Arclight will be able now to possibly get a flanking shot here. Doesn't look like we can quite do it and keep vision. So I think we're going to move in a way that I can get out of here next turn without a problem. I'm still going to fire away, though, because I see no reason why not to. But we're going to want to get out because, as we can see here, their light mech does have a direct line of sight on me, will be able to fire on me next turn, so we will have that initiative advantage. Let's just go ahead and fire away here. Unfortunately, guard is going to matter there, but we do get to do some good damage. Okay, now our goal here with Arc Light is to get out, so we're going to sprint. And we're going to move as far as we can so that we can more or less reset.
Roger.
The Battlemaster should have a hard time matching this for obvious reasons, but There we go. Now, that does mean I won't be able to sensor lock, so if we don't get line of sight this turn, we're going to have some waiting to do. So I'm going to be reserving for now. I might just move the Atlas up, though, into contact. Our advantage that we have to work with is the fact that our opponent does not have line of sight on us. Okay, now it's Sumo.
Yeah.
So, I was hoping that we'd be able to move up and establish a line of sight, but it appears that I cannot. So, instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stay right where I am, and I'm going to brace. I was hoping I'd be able to move up here and get a line of sight and then be able to just smack this guy's back again, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to be the case. So we're just going to brace and we're going to cool ourselves off. We could move into the woods as well to do the same thing, and honestly, I might do that. We're going to be losing a lot of firepower here by not using our Atlas this turn, and also not establishing a line of sight is going to be a little bit problematic for us. Hopefully I was about to say, hopefully the Battlemaster moves into in a way that we can take advantage of him, but unfortunately, no. Alright, well, we don't have a target for this turn, so it's just going to be a cool-off period, it looks like.
Keeping my heat low. Yes, Commander.
I might even move a little bit here, so I can get a little bit better
Moving out.
positioning. At this point, we might as well reserve, allow our opponent to maybe move into a position that we can take advantage of. Fortunately, it looks like I'm not going to be able to easily take advantage of that Battlemaster very much more. Backing out there was actually a very wise move on the side of the AI. As much as we can criticize the AI, that was the right move to make, because if he had moved forward, I would have just hammered him with our 2 support mechs and done even more damage to him. Although he is moving up now, so I'm not really in a position to take advantage of him right now, but what I can do is I can start moving down this way, putting ourselves in a good position for next turn to possibly get a flank attack on him. But the more important thing here is we're going to be sensor locking up the Battlemaster. And I'm still going to aim for the Battlemaster because it is weak and we want to be able to take it out if we can. Okay, so Apex is going to continue to hammer the Battlemaster, only using 1 LRM-15 as we can get through that guard. Hopefully we can knock off that arm that we've already damaged heavily.
Scored a critical hit.
Taking out heat sinks is always good too, though. Alright, at this point, I guess we might as well attack with Sumo, so we're just going to open up with our LRM-20 yet again.
Oh, you want some of this?
We are running low on LRM-20 shots here. Unfortunately, with missile fire, you spread out the damage pretty
I'm here.
well, so I think we're just going to stay put, and we're going to hit this guy with our LRM-15, just a single one. Again, I'm trying to save ammo here,
Commander.
because we have 2 other well-protected mechs to deal with. There we go, finally taking off
That hit something good.
both the torso and the arm there. Okay, we do have focus. Maybe I could have used that last turn with wildfire, but for now, we're just going to go ahead and reserve. Yet again, we're going to wait for our position, our opportunity here, because we might be able to get a rear hit-and-run attack on that Battlemaster, depending on how things go. So,
Reserving action.
although we may have to switch targets to the Orion as things develop here. Okay, we're going to reserve again. We don't have a line of sight established yet, so here comes the Orion. Not establishing a line of sight yet, though. We're going to reserve again. This is going to force the Battlemaster to move. If he moves forward, we might have him. Okay, so the important thing we have to look at
Yep.
is, can we get a rear shot? And it looks like we very much can. So let's go ahead and go for it.
Heading out.
Now I don't need to get a sensor lock here. Yeah, he's got an evasion charge, which is, you know, a little bit problematic, but we'll burn through it here. We still have a pretty good chance to hit. That's going to be on completely stripped rear armor, so that's going to be all internals. Okay, so now we've got a couple different mechs established line of sight. I think Apex is going to continue to do damage against the Battlemaster here. With just the one, so we get through that guard, as we've been doing. Okay, we've got the center torso now opened up for us. So what I think I'm going to do with Sumo is I'm going to go ahead and use my multi-target and the focus. So, focus.
Who wants some of this, huh?
Then we're going to use multi-target here. So, first target is going to be the Battlemaster. Second target is going to be the Orion. So I'm going to want to spread my fire here. So the LRM-20 is going to be on B. Everything else is selected on A, which honestly some of this firepower may be wasted. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the SRM-6, and all of the medium lasers are going to be against the Battlemaster. But the AC-20 and the LRM-20 are heavier firepower is going to be against the Orion. So we've got B and A selected. Let's go ahead and fire these two off. This will burn through their guard, and we have very high chances to hit here.
Time for a little bang, bang.
Okay, I'm hoping for a kill. Didn't get it. Unfortunately, hit the leg there. That's the last place we want to hit with an LRM-20, but... Alright, at least we did the damage. Now it's Wildfire's turn.
Commander?
We might be able to get the kill on the Battlemaster if we're lucky. So I think it's well worth opening up with both of our missile systems here. And we're going to hit the
Engaging
Battlemaster, hopefully killing him. Okay, well, we did very heavy damage there.
critical hit.
I would be able to finish off the mech with arc light, but I'm not going to be doing that purely because we would be opened up on by two other mechs. Arc light would probably die from that, so it's not worth finishing off the mech to get that. What I am going to do, though, is... moving here would probably be fine. I don't think they'd be able to see me if I moved here. And we could sensor lock up because it's possible we'll break line of sight if we move here. Sprinting would be the safer move, but I think I am going to go with this move. It's a little risky, but I don't think they'll be able to manage to get line of sight on me. But I have been wrong before. We're going to lock up... Honestly, I'm tempted to lock up the Orion over the Battlemaster, the Battlemaster being pretty much a non-factor now that we've blown off both the left and right torso. It shouldn't have much in the way of weapons. If it does charge in on me, I'll be able to pretty much annihilate it. So let's just sensor lock up the Orion, get rid of that last evasion charge, and we'll open up with our medium mechs on the Orion, start doing damage there. So as we have been doing, we're going to continue to fire only one of our missiles. I don't have any clue where the Hunchback is right now. You would think it would have closed the distance by now.
Target confirmed.
It's possible I have lost my attention of it, but that doesn't seem very likely. Oh, there it is. All the way on the edge of the map. So we will have to start considering that as a threat at some point.
I'm here.
At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the one LRM-15. We're just going to hit with the other one.
Confirmed.
Here comes the Orion. Still has an established line of sight against me. Unfortunately, we can't reserve, so we have to act upon what we can see. So right now, we are in a situation where we're fairly heated up. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off some systems that would waste ammo that is starting to run out, especially with the LRM-20s. We're just going to fire the medium lasers. It will help cool us off slightly. And this should burn through some of the evasion charges. Now, whether or not we can see this mech without the sensor lock, I'm not sure. We'll find out once the turn's over. And the Battlemaster is just going to retreat, which I'm not too surprised with. Could potentially be a threat for our light mech, so we have to be aware of that. I'm going to go ahead and reserve at this point, because we want to possibly get a flank attack on the Orion. So we're just going to continue to reserve until the Orion goes, and then we're going to move with our commando, trying to get our flank shot. Here comes the Hunchback. Again, possible threat, so I'm going to want to move Apex at some point, but we haven't established the line of sight, so let's go ahead and reserve again, allowing the Orion to move. Okay, there it is. Going to open up on our Atlas, which is guarded, so we should be able to handle this damage just fine. Now it's going to be Arc Light's job to try and do as much damage as we can. I might want to...
Yep.
Because the rear shot's going to be very critical. I'm tempted to have the other mechs attack to burn through the evasion charges first. But the problem is I'm not going to be able to follow up the rear attack with another rear attack, more than likely. I'm going to have to run away, so... Let's take the flank while we've got it. And we'll do the other damage with our other mechs. But this is the turn that we need to really open up on the Orion, because it may have bulwark. There's a lot of pilots that have that ability, so... Okay, good rear hits there. But as we can see, really didn't hurt the rear armor too badly. Okay, now it's going to be, I think, Apex here. I'm going to want to start moving to get away from the Hunchback, so I'm going to move out this way.
On the move.
And we're going to be using both of our LRM-15s here, as there is no defense for the Orion. And we might be able to knock the Orion down if we're lucky before the Atlas has to go, or gets to go. As we're going to be rocking this mech pretty heavily.
I'm receiving you.
I can even open up with my medium lasers if I want. Now, this is going to heat us up quite a lot, but this is a really good opportunity. We have very good chances to hit, and this is going to be doing full damage, so I figure, why not? Again, we're trying to knock our opponent down here so that we can get called shots, which it looks like we're going to be able to pull off.
Critical hit, Commander.
Oh, really? You're not down yet? I mean, you're going to go down after we hit you with the Atlas, but it's just a little bit of a bummer that... Okay, there's the Battlemaster. Okay.
What's up, Commander?
So can we attack here? No, yeah, I can attack without moving. So I'm going to want to open up here with as much as I can get away with. The AC-20 is going to be very important because of the amount of damage it can do. Okay, we can fire the SRM-6 too. LRM-20 we're going to hold off. We're going to try and do as much damage as we possibly can because this is the turn to do it. Okay, really good damage there. Okay, managed to take out a torso section there. And knock you down. Just going to bring you down in initiative, allowing us to really take you out, possibly.
Oh, come on, it's like
All right, so I actually have two options here with Arc Light. I think the best option is to lay into the Orion as much as we can. This does put us in a little bit of an awkward position, though. Let me just really quickly, before I do that, let's see what our opponent has here as far as armor. I'm banking a lot on being able to kill the Orion before he gets up. And that is definitely a gamble. But it's a gamble I'm willing to take. Because I'm going to get called shots here across the board. We have 3 mechs that will be able to open up here. I think that gives us a really good possibility. And the Commando does a significant amount of damage. So let's go ahead and aim for the center torso. And we're trying for a kill here. So we got through the armor. That's very important. We also managed to destroy the right torso, significantly increasing our chances of killing this guy. How much I'll be able to pour in with Wildfire, I'm not exactly sure.
Aye, aye.
But I should be able to do a fair amount with Apex here. So I'm going to continue to move with Apex, trying to put myself into a position a little bit further away from the Hunchback. Let's look over that way, though, in case it does come out of its hiding. All right, so our goal now is to just open up with our LRM-15s, going for the center torso. We might be able to kill him here. There we go. Exactly, so it was worth the gamble.
Mechs destroyed.
That does mean that Wildfire will be able to change targets here and go after the Battlemaster instead. Maybe getting a kill, although there's a lot of evasion charges. So just the LRM-15s at this point. Going to fire both of them, but that will expand all of our ammo.
Affirmative.
Okay, we got another kill. So 2 kills in 1 turn. Pretty good.
Looks like Arley's a new target.
So this particular lance loadout requires patience. But as we could see, very effective. Looks like we can also establish a line of sight here. If I move here, I can't get into the woods, but I still think establishing line of sight and being able to do something with it is going to be valuable. We'll probably take a AC-20 shot next turn that we won't be able to reduce, but I think we'll be okay. Now the goal is to open up with some weapons here. I'm just going to fire the medium lasers, try and cool ourselves down a bit. I might even use our punching to an advantage, perhaps. But here we go. This is mostly just to burn through the evasion charges. Okay, we managed to get 1 hit. That's not too bad. Could be better, obviously.
Watch the heat.
Okay, Arc Light is going to reposition here. My goal is to move in a way that we can get closer to the Hunchback, maybe with a possibility of flanking. This should block line of sight, so I think we'll be okay here. It's possible you'll be able to get into a position to see me, so Commando is possibly in threat. Go ahead and sensor lock up the Hunchback. We're moving evasion charges, although he'll be able to build them up right after that, so... No, actually, no. We get to go first. That's good. Okay, so Apex
Commander.
is going to want to continue to move away, if possible. I guess if we keep moving this way, we'll be able to have a direct line of sight.
Move order confirmed.
I only have 1 LRM-15 left, I just realized. But, alright, we'll make that count. It's maybe a little bit of a mistake. I should have put myself in a position to possibly use our
LRMs.
medium lasers instead. Alright. Here comes the Hunchback. He would have been using focus anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered as far as defense here. We're going to eat that AC-20 shot. But we've got good armor, so...
Crap. That hit hard.
Okay.
Yes, Commander.
Now Wildfire, who only has medium lasers. So we're going to get into a position to use those medium lasers.
Order acknowledged.
And then next turn I'll probably use our guard to try and defend ourselves. This is risky, of course, because I am putting myself into a position to take damage
Fire in.
with a mech that's not really going to handle it, and this guy does have some pretty heavy firepower. Okay, we're going to go over and we're going to just punch this guy. We're really hot, and I want to have an opportunity to cool off, so I think this is the best chance to do that. And I'll go ahead and move on to this side of him.
Aye, aye. Whoa.
Okay, good damage there. Now, preferably we want to attack from the other side, but... Alright, at this point, Arc Light could possibly get a flank attack, but... I'm going to actually reserve, because much as I want to do as much damage as I can to the Hunchback, I don't want our scout mech to just die, so we're going to reserve. Going to reserve again. This is going to give, unfortunately, the Hunchback an opportunity to move here. And he's just going to apparently trade with the Atlas with melee attacks. This is a terrible idea for the AI, especially as it has just given me its back, which means I'm going to be really able to lay into it with my trebuchets, like a lot. Okay, so Apex
Standing by.
needs to get as close as possible so that we can open up with our medium lasers on that back armor. Hunchbacks have paper-thin rear armor, so this is going to be very effective.
Enemy outflanked. Bringing the pain.
Okay, and now we're going to do Wildfire here.
Commander?
I want that rear armor. Again, paper-thin. Be in our best advantage. We can get a good evasion charge going if we move full distance here. I don't know if we have the heat to fire all 3 medium lasers again. We'll find out here in a second. Looks like we can get away with it.
Take this.
Okay, heavy damage there. And boom, you're dead. So there is only one opponent left. I'm going to try and find that opponent so that we can do damage to
What
it.
do you need?
Of course, I'm going to try and stay out of line of sight as well, though. I think it's more likely that it's going to be over here somewhere. So let's move here.
Heading out.
See if we can find that. There it is. Then hopefully Sumo can get in range and we can sling some LRM-20s or something at it. Now, our ability to attack as support mechs, our support mechs are
Okay.
very limited because we've gone through all of our LRM ammo. And this is the problem with doing a support build.
Oh, you want some?
Now, the Atlas still has LRMs, though, so we'll open up with those. And at this point, I think it's pretty much a done deal. We just have to get in there and... Oh, I should have used focus there. That was actually a good opportunity to use it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and reserve at this point. Allow the urban mech to go. At this point, anything the urban mech does, we can just have Arclight come in, poke him. I mean, we can hit and run attack, even though this guy is a light mech, fairly effectively. And he can't move far enough to give himself any evasion charges, so we're just going to be opening up constantly on this guy.
Firing.
Again, focused fire probably would have been a good call here, and I just am continuously forgetting about it. Trying to remember to do it with Sumo, though. Apex and Wildfire have no LRMs, so they're not going to be too useful here until we get closer.
Moving to position.
As a matter of fact, we should probably sprint. I should have sprinted. All right, I'll do that with Wildfire.
Standing by. 10-4.
And I think I will use the focus with the Atlas this turn, even though
Okay.
we might have a better opportunity to do damage later.
Right here.
There's going to be a high hit chance, high damage. Okay. Arclight is just going to back
What do you need?
off at this stage. As much as I want to keep line of sight, I think the better move here is just to sprint away. I do have to remember the urban mech has jump jets, so I think we're going to sprint away in this direction. That way the urban mech can't just jump up on top of this hill and still be able to attack me. It does still have considerable damage output with that AC-10. So this is going to be a turn where we're mostly just getting positioning and what have you.
Yes, Commander.
So I'm going to go ahead and sprint on over. I want to stay in the woods, though, so it also reduces damage if I can. Alternatively, we can just go for as many evasion charges as we can get. Which honestly, I don't think is a bad call, so we'll do that.
Full throttle.
put ourselves into a position to act next turn.
I'm receiving you.
So it's very likely that Wildfire will be attacked next turn. Okay, and Sumo doesn't really have much that he can do, so
Something I can do.
I think instead we're just going to move forward, and then we're going to brace up.
You got it.
So he's nice and cooled off at this point. Okay. So we're going to reserve, allow the urban mech to do what it's going to do. And then we're going to move into a position where we can see and attack.
Copy that.
And now we should be able to do damage with all of our mechs here. This should be a pretty much done deal.
Confirmed.
Especially if we take out the AC-10, which is what we just did. All this mech has now is its mass and its small lasers. So this is a real done deal.
Aye, aye.
Okay, so move to here, open up with our medium lasers.
Copy that.
And do the same thing with Wildfire.
Waiting for orders.
And then we'll open up with our LRM-20 from the Atlas, and that should be
Roger that. Target confirmed.
possibly all she wrote. And if not, we'll just use Arc Light to attack one more time.
I'll make them dead.
Objective
Yep,
complete.
there we go.
Mission successful.
So a more drawn-out mission, it takes a lot of patience, and you have to use your resources to the fullest. But as you can see here, our Atlas took a little bit of damage. That's even with a couple AC-20 hits. Actually, an AC-10 and an AC-20 hit, and some other damage as well. And our armor's still there. Some of it's a little beat up, but we're more or less fine. And our other mechs are entirely untouched. So a very effective loadout. It's just one that requires patience, and maybe if the AI had worked a little bit more in concert, worked together rather than spreading out as much as they had, we would have been more in trouble. If they had stayed together and worked as a wrecking crew, they could have possibly overwhelmed the ability of the Atlas to keep them back, and then our trebuchets might have been in trouble. So with a concerted effort from the enemy, you might be in trouble with this. So you're going to have to be willing to do a fighting retreat with the trebuchets, which is something that we kind of did, keeping our trebuchets nice and back. You do have to keep in mind your ammo stores with the trebuchets, as once we got to that hunchback, we were pretty much running out of ammo. So that is a little bit of a problem. If your enemy can bait out shots from you in the early stages of the game where they're hanging back and they've got their guard up, they might be able to drain your ammo. And that's the reason why I kept saying with Wildfire, I'm going to conserve my ammo, I'm going to conserve my ammo, because as we saw there, getting close to the end of the match, we were out of ammo, and that means that the trebuchets are only left with their backup firepower, which it's all right, but it's not really gonna be necessarily great. So it's not really what we're looking for in the end. So in any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.